Hi, this is Josh Marshall from TPM Media. It's Tuesday, November 6, 2007. I think we all remember back on the playground when we were little kids, no one ever wants to be dealt out of the conversation. Everybody wants to have the best story. So it's, you flew a plane? Hey, I flew a plane last summer. You caught a 2-pound fish? When I was fishing with my uncle last summer, I caught a 30-pound fish, and now I'm the fish expert. Now the weird thing is, the longer we see Rudy Giuliani on the campaign trail, Giuliani seems to have this trait that most of us outgrew when we were 7, 8, 9 years old, but Rudy's over 60 and he still seems to have it in spades. We know that Giuliani really was mayor of New York City on 9/11, that's true. You probably also remember a couple months ago when Rudy said in addition to being mayor, he was also a 9/11 recovery worker.
I was at ground zero as often, if not more than most of the workers. I was there working with them. I was there guiding things. I was there bringing people there. So in that sense, I'm one of them.
Just this Friday, it turns out now that Giuliani is an expert on torture because back when he was U.S. attorney, he did all sorts of enhanced interrogation techniques on mobsters that he put in jail.
Do you know more about torture than John McCain?
I can't say that I do, but I do know a lot about intensive questioning techniques. Intensive questioning works. If I didn't use intensive questioning, there'd be a lot of mafia guys running around New York right now, and crime would be a lot higher in New York than it is.
Okay, so let's go down the list. We have Rudy as 9/11 recovery worker. Rudy is Jack Bauer, torture expert from his days as U.S. attorney, bringing down the mafia. Now, my big question with Rudy is, are these fibs? Is he just making up little lies to make himself seem like a bigger deal than he is? Or what I actually suspect is Rudy such a megalomaniac that he actually thinks these things are true, that he actually thinks he was a 9/11 recovery worker and also an expert on the torture debate, because he sat in an interrogation room once with a mobster back sometime in the 1980s. Now, I think we're starting to get an answer to this question, because the latest that Rudy's come up with is that he was, for all intents and purposes, commander-in-chief of New York City from 1994 to 2001. Now, mayor is an important job, there's no question about that, and especially in a city like New York that has millions of residents, and there's everything from trash collection to running the police department to everything else. But if you look what Rudy says, he really seems to think that he had the responsibility for the safety and security of all New York residents on his shoulders, as he says, during the time he was mayor. Really as though he was, or New York was basically a city-state, its own independent country, and Rudy was president and commander-in-chief of the New York Armed Forces and preventing terrorist attacks from happening in New York City. Check out a few recent statements by Rudy.
Honestly and most respectfully, I don't know Hillary's experience. She's never run a city. She's never run a state. She's never run a business.
Never run a city, never run a state, never run a business.
Never run a city, never run a state, never run a government. He's never been responsible as a mayor for the safety and security of millions of people.
Never been responsible for the safety and security of millions of people.
He's never had the weight of people's safety and security on his shoulders. I have.
So if you're out in Los Angeles right now and you're feeling like other countries threaten us, or maybe you're in danger from terrorism, you better pick up the phone and call Mayor Villaraigosa and tell him his foreign policy blows. So that's the question. Rudy Giuliani, grade school fibber, or World Class Megalomaniac? And that's the question upon which next November's election may in fact turn. So we're going to put the email address up here at the bottom of the screen. We want to hear from you. Which is it? Again, grade school fibber, World Class Megalomaniac, out of touch with reality. We're going to bring you some of our reader responses next week. I'm Josh Marshall from TPM Media, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.